POSTCAST, the Utah Jazz stricken by the virus and short a ton of guys. Don't have the muster to handle the Cleveland Cavaliers and have now lost 4 in a row. David Locke and Ron Boone with you. We'll be talking about it coming up on POSTCAST. The Utah Jazz fall to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lose it by 20, 111-91. Jazz were close. They never led in this game. Cavaliers led wire to wire. Jazz were close for much of the night, and then a 20-0 or 21-0 run ended the night for the Utah Jazz in the second quarter or in the third quarter tonight. Now I know what you were talking about.
You lost your train of thought, didn't you?
Hey, at least we made you laugh tonight. You got me. You got me good. He told me, let's get this show on the road. I got people I got to drive home. And then he smirked. And now I know why he smirked. Okay. So I'm flustered. So let's talk. Ron, what happened in the 21-0 run?
Well, it was the points in the paint. They were 46-16 or something like that. After that, they ended up 60-36. I mean, they were a big team. I mean, you expected the Jazz to end up faltering to the point where they just couldn't handle that size. To get a great job of switching and rotating out of it. They do that good job there, anyway. But when they're undersized like that, eventually, things are going to not work for you.
Well, it was really interesting tonight is the Jazz in the first quarter got to the rim just time and time again. They were driving, and the Jazz took 9 shots and made 9 shots. They were 9 of 12 within 5 feet of the rim. And then the second quarter, they were 3 of 3, maybe 4 of 4. And then all of a sudden, the next thing that happened was that they got no 2-point shots in the entire third quarter. The Jazz did not make a 2 in the entire third quarter. You made an interesting comment in the broadcast. I said, what happened there? You basically said, hey, it's one that team can counter. Team figures you out, and then you don't have a counter.
Right.
And your feeling was we just didn't have a counter to that tonight.
Absolutely. I thought that first quarter, the spacing, the fact that the Jazz were, I have not seen all season long the Jazz, everybody trying to penetrate and get to the basket. You mentioned marketing, knowing that they could beat him off the dribble. But eventually you expect that to fizzle and for this team to take control. But, everyone's going through this stuff right now. Just have to get out there and play hard.
So the Jazz tonight, without Rudy Gobert, without Hassan Whiteside, and without Rudy Gay. So what they were missing tonight was all their centers. Eric Paschall played some and did a good job. Did Cleveland abuse the Jazz and take advantage of that lack of size, and was that the key to the game?
Absolutely. I mean, how many times did you see them come up the floor and just throw it up to the front part of the rim, to Allen, sometimes Stevens and Mobley? It's the reason they got 60 points in the paint. It's not because guys are driving and getting layups. It's because of the size of the Cavaliers right now.
Ron, people have been panning me. That's like a nice way of saying making fun of me, mocking me. National pundits all across the country regularly make fun of me because I like to talk about screen assists and the importance of screen assists. I play into it a little bit, so I'm kind of willing to be panned. Are we seeing indirectly how much Rudy Gobert actually impacts us offensively, not just defensively?
Yeah, we have, and it's not because he's screening and passing the basketball. It's because of the screens that he's setting that leads to buckets. And it's not just Rudy. I mean, Rudy sets a good screen. They're so concerned with him rolling to the basket, but it's the offensive player that's helping it there as well. Donovan coming off the screen, pulling up, knocking down a 3-point shot. I mean, mocking you, what about Sabonis there in Indianapolis?
Right.
They're pretty high on that as well.
A lot of people are commenting in the chat room about Joe Ingles. I don't know what happened, but I'll generally say this. You shouldn't get ejected when a team only has 6 players.
No, definitely not.
And you certainly shouldn't get ejected on somebody else's foul.
Right.
Like it was Boyan's foul. Like if you had a tech, you got hit and you said something kind of instinctually and you got hit with that tech, like I'd be like, okay, I got it. It was strange. So kind of for those people that are wondering, like, I agree with you. I just thought it was strange. I don't, who knows? I think one thing that's worth kind of keeping an eye on, frankly, everybody, is how players play when they come back off the virus. And I've kind of watched it in the league, and not everyone's great. Like Jason Tatum, frankly, hasn't been quite the same since he got it the first time. And Darius Garland has not shot it as well since he's come off in his 5 games back. So And I talked to someone, hey, it's only anecdotal, but I talked to someone today who was like, I was tired for 10, 11 days afterwards. I had felt like I had a bad cold, things like that. He says, but it lingered for a long while. I talked to somebody else who told me that they had like a real brain fog for a few days afterwards. So I think it's a little bit more than it's being portrayed to be in some places. And so some of these players who, even though they're elite athletes and maybe it's worth watching that maybe they don't come back quite right. Joe's shot certainly didn't look right during that game.
Yeah, he shot an air ball there. As a matter of fact, he was only 1 for 5 in 13 minutes of play. But you're absolutely right about, so is it the virus that takes something out of you, or is it the fact that you can't get on the floor and work on your game, work on your rhythm and that type of thing? Probably all of the above that keeps you from coming back the way you left the game.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. This is not over. Here's the thing that I think I'm left with tonight. One, Eric Paschal is really good. It's worth kind of commenting that he had 19 points, 8 of 11 shooting, 2 of 3. He's really stepping up with his opportunities. The other one is that I think, I don't want to be like overly dramatic, but if we're following the same pattern that most teams are, we're probably a good week to 10 days to maybe 14 days before this is over. Like it takes, like Charlotte had kind of one after another. Cleveland had it like for a while. Like maybe we can somehow get like this 4 days off is going to be good. Like, I don't know if you're Quinn Snyder, whether you practice, like if everyone's testing negative tomorrow, like do you just separate them and not have them, like, I don't know what you do with this. Like that's other people's job. That's way more, but like, how do we survive this? We can't really afford an 8-game losing streak or a 7-game losing streak. What can this team do to actually win basketball games with a decent chance that, Mike Donovan, Boyan, or some other guys are going to end up with this virus before we're done?
Well, that's something that you got to expect, that some of the guys that haven't had it are going to show up with it. This is a tough situation for the Jazz, for any team that's going through something like this. And the Jazz, it's their time. But fortunately enough, there's a few days off. But the thing is, they play one game and then they go out on the road again. So it doesn't get any easier for the Jazz. And hopefully that if there's anyone else that tests positive, it's not going to be Donovan or anybody like that.
Right. Well, yeah, I think you also bring up a good point. Like these guys that are suddenly in protocols right now in quarantine, like by the time they come out, they're going to end up going back on the road, never see their family, but the coaches, particularly Alex and Vince and Sergey, like those guys, everyone's gone through it, every team. And we've seen a lot of losses by teams you wouldn't expect and a lot of big losses by teams. And we've got to find a way to sneak 1 or 2 or 3 of these out. We got one in Denver. Can we get another one in Denver? Can we get somewhere else along the way so that you're just not out of it? We slipped to 4th in the standings tonight. Memphis is rolling. They went through it earlier. Ja Morant was out for a while. I think he might have actually just been injured, but they also had some of it. So, everyone's gone through it, and everyone's going to continue to go through it here for probably a few more weeks, and we'll just see whether the Jazz can find a way to survive. That is POSTCAST tonight. Have a good one. Talk.